Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western practical astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about your 5th house, 11th house axis in astrology as we go through all of these signs. I hope you find this video to be helpful today. But before we do dive in, however, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast. And you can also pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets available over on hannahselsewhere.com. Oh, and if you want to book a reading with me, you can also do that by going to my website, hannahselsewhere.com. Thank you so much. Now, I want to mention that if you want to learn more about the houses, okay, each single house, then I have created an episode for each of them. Those episodes can be found over on my podcast. Those episodes are from 22 to 33. I go into much more detail about the houses. Though, important thing to do before we really dive in to the signs is let's give a brief overview about each of these houses. So the 5th house, 11th house axis. What is it all about? The 5th house is truly about how we express ourselves. It's truly about how we show up as individuals. We develop an ego within the 5th house. We individuate, we differentiate, especially coming from the 4th house, right? That threshold. I always find the thresholds between the houses to be really fascinating. The threshold of the 4th into the 5th. What we do is we individuate, we come into our own separate from our family. Because of course the fourth house is about our family, our ancestry, our upbringing. In the 5th house as well, we really think about what brings us joy, what makes us feel good, what makes us happy. It's truly a house of happiness and joy. And I always find it interesting that when we look to traditional astrology, that Venus finds her joy in the 5th house. Makes me think, because I do have that placement. But I digress. The 5th house is also about romantic relationships. So how we show up within romantic relationships, what we're looking for, the kinds of lovers we attract, our attitudes towards romance, our attitudes towards love, and our attitudes towards dating in general. You know, a lot of people may choose not to get into a relationship or to be single, for example. But it's also about admiration, love, attention. And I'm even going to say a step further here, really being seen. Okay, the 5th house is truly about being seen. And that's important, right? So to be seen within a romantic relationship, for instance, to feel loved within a romantic relationship. Even that's where children come into the 5th house, right? So the 5th house is so much about our childhood, the kind of child we were, how we played as a child, how we had fun as a child. Maybe you didn't have so much fun as a child, stuff like that. And then that is also where the attention and the specialness comes in, because as children, we need that attention. We need that love from our caregivers, right? That makes so much sense. And then equally, whenever we go on to have children of our own, if we choose to do so, it's about the love and affection that they receive. But then the 11th house opposite, it's more about the group. It's more about the collective. So seeing that you are a singular individual within the greater whole, seeing that we are all part of this collective consciousness and that everything is indeed interconnected. So seeing how your actions may have a ripple effect on society. The other thing about it then is the 11th house is so much about our collective aims. So you know how people can all band together, they come together with a common cause, a common goal. Their objectives are very much outlined. So this is about, all people coming together with a common aim, common goal in mind and pushing forward for that. In this regard, yes, the 11th house is so much about our future visions, our future dreams, what we would like to see come into existence, how we wish the world could be, right? It's really about our social utopia. Plus, I would even say that there is a part of it that is quite singular too, right? So to think about your personal aims, your personal hopes and wishes and aspirations for the future. Plus, the 11th house is about how you make friends and how you influence people, how you show up online, think about social media. We think about parasocial relationships, for instance, fans, followers, subscribers, communities we join, the types of groups we want to join online, but also this can be offline. So I imagine clubs, I imagine different activities that you do with others. And then I'm also thinking that whilst it's how you make friends, it can also show up as your attitudes towards friendships and what you kind of look for in a friendship, what you need in a friendship. And lastly, what I'm going to say about the 11th house is it's so much about our social identity. Okay, so with that all being explained, when we think about those differences between the 5th and the 11th houses, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through all of the signs, and we're really going to focus in on what brings you joy and happiness in this life, and also thinking about your collective dreams, your future dreams and visions. Thank you so much for watching. First up, we have Aries in the 5th house and Libra in the 11th house. So you could very well have a Sagittarius rising with this combination. All right, this is where we notice actually how competitive you can be, how you strive to do something first when we think about creativity and your passions, your interests. We also see here that joy is truly felt whenever you follow your passions, whenever you do the thing, you go after your goals. And that is interesting because with having a Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius risings are known for being leaders. They're known for possessing a lot of energy, very enthusiastic. So this Aries feel in the 5th house suggests that you are full of passion. And whenever you are really caught in this interest, caught up in this strong interest, you're going to be very, very driven. We also say here that you need adventure. Okay, you need adventure, maybe sport, you need some kind of fitness or some kind of activity that you do that is physical, right? So, very physical. And this adventurous spirit is very true for you. I think that you need to explore different places, try new things, meet new people. It's all about this fresh, new, exciting energy when we think about joy, really experiencing joy in your life. And then when we notice Libra, so Libra is in the 11th house. Well, what we see here is that when it comes to your future aims, your future visions, you might prefer to align yourself with the type of future that says, let's cooperate, let's relate to one another. Let's try and see where the other person is coming from. You may find that within social circles, within friendships, you tend to play the mediator. You tend to naturally take on this role of being the mediator or possibly being the judge. But yes, basically, you being that person who is a voice of reason, you being that person who is able to hold space for many different views, many different opinions. And even during times when maybe it becomes too much, right? Where there's too many opinions, or it's hard for you to try to balance all of that. This is actually where you can come back to your Aries 5th house and you can remember that you're still an individual. I think you remember that indeed throughout your life, that you are an individual, you have your own interests, your own passions, your own hobbies, your own goals that you're striving towards. And it's not your responsibility to cater to everybody else's needs or to make sure that everybody is on equal footing and everyone's getting along. So, whilst yes, you can draw from your gifts of being this negotiator or this mediator, being the one who is a voice of reason, it's also equally important for you to not lose yourself within that. And so maybe in this regard, what you can do is you can go to whatever passion or hobby or interest, go to whatever interest that you're used to or that brings you joy. That interest, that passion is the very thing that brings you back to yourself, right? It brings you back to your individuality. It brings you back to your self identity. Yeah. Thank you so much, Aries in the 5th, Libra in the 11th. Now we're going to move on to Taurus. So Taurus in the 5th and Scorpio in the 11th. So with this particular combination, you could very well have a Capricorn rising, using the whole sign system just to really confirm there. Right. Let's think about Taurus in the 5th, because this is where we see your ability to be patient when it comes to your interests, your hobbies, your passions. Very patient, very consistent. You make things beautiful. And this is also where we see how you might tap into your senses. You might try to ground yourself regularly when it comes to your creativity. Maybe that's what you prefer. It's this question of how does this truly sit with me? This creative project, this interest of mine, how can I even embody it? And how can I experience it physically, practically? And when we think about joy, what brings you joy to a great extent is, well, connecting with your senses. It's connecting with the things that are pleasurable, really pleasurable to you. So this could be food, of course. This could be fashion. This could be going to a lovely spa, treating yourself to a nice new handbag or a nice new candle. This could be some experience, such as going to a concert or a festival. Music could very well help center you or bring you back to yourself. But basically, joy is experienced through your senses, And then when we look to Scorpio in the 11th house, well, what do we see? We actually see how much you stir up emotions from within the collective, from within groups of people. I imagine this as you not shying away from the hard stuff, you not shying away from the thing that needs to be said within the group. And if other people don't like it, then hey, they don't like it. It's not up for you. It's not up to you to cater to their emotions or to over explain yourself, right? Maybe to you, it is important that truth is said, that honesty is brought forward. And that's also what you strive for. That's what you look for within friendships, within groups you're a part of. In fact, I would argue that whenever there isn't honesty, it can feel like a major betrayal to you. And I'm also thinking about some kind of empowerment or moments of power, positions of power within groups. I'm even thinking about your future aims, your future dreams being tied to transformation or vulnerability. So, bringing up other people's vulnerabilities and getting them to awaken to their vulnerabilities, their weaknesses, their temptations. And I find this really fascinating because if you do have Capricorns are really known for being quite dark people. And what I'm really trying to suggest here is that Capricorns, they are not afraid to face their darkness, right? And so I think with Scorpio in the 11th, it's almost as if to say, well, I'm not afraid to face my darkness. So you shouldn't be afraid to face your darkness. And that within itself can be so healing for people or helpful. You can almost you can almost transform, you can facilitate or assist with the transformation of others, of groups. I even imagine you being in a group and you know how to hold the energy to contain, really truly contain that energy. And I am touching on more Scorpio in the 11th here. You could have a Capricorn rising, you might not have a Capricorn rising, but I do find those connections to be really interesting. However, last thing I'm going to really touch on here is times whenever you may find that you're so fixated on, oh, like, why is this person not listening to me? Or you step into the power plays, right? The power plays with Scorpio within groups or amongst friends. This is where Taurus in the 5th can help you, right? It kind of steps in and says, I know my worth. What's the point of repeating myself? What's the point of arguing with this person? They're not going to listen anyway. I know my worth. But then also, how can you feel more at ease? Okay. Coming back to what comforts you, what supports you, what grounds you in the present. Thank you so much, Taurus in the 5th, Scorpio in the 11th. Now we're going to talk about Gemini in the 5th and Sagittarius in the 11th. Okay, so with this particular combination, you could very well have an Aquarius rising. Right, using the whole sign, just to confirm. Let's firstly think about Gemini in the 5th house. Well, this is where we notice that when it comes to the things that bring you joy and happiness in your life, it's learning. It's piecing the dots together, it's thinking of new ways of doing things, it's about seeking a variety of different hobbies and interests, it's upskilling, right? Learning more about particular hobbies that do excite you, that do interest you. I'm also thinking that you know in your heart of hearts that you are multifaceted and that there's not one way that you present yourself. There's not one way that you express your individuality. And this to me is so fascinating because Aquarians, right? So if you have an Aquarius rising here, what are Aquarians known for? Aquarians, first and foremost, they're known for marching to the beat of their own drum, but also they're known for changing up the way they express themselves, the way they perform, or the way they entertain themselves. Their hobbies change, yeah, their interests change, and it's all about switching things up when we explore Gemini in the 5th house. Um, but I'm also, do you know what? I'm also equally thinking slightly about maybe being somewhat prideful when it comes to learning or education. And then Aquarius risings are also known for being that way. But that's just a quick side note that came to my mind. And I'm just, I'm having fun with you here, by the way. Also, when we think about Gemini in the 5th house, I'm thinking that you can jump from one hobby or interest. And what can happen is a lot of unfinished projects can occur. Also, a very Aquarius rising thing to do. Indeed, you can be like that. But I'm also going to say this is where the dabble can come in, right? Your ability to dabble, your ability to pull from all sorts of resources and information. And that within itself is such a journey. It's a journey of self-exploration, self-discovery. And like I said, a big part of what excites you, what brings you joy, it's through the mind. That's how you get to an Aquarius rising individual. It's through the mind. I have been saying Aquarius rising for quite a bit, but even if you don't have an Aquarius rising and you have this combination using some kind of different system, hey, see how this resonates with you, okay? Now, let's think about Sagittarius in the 11th house. Well, this is where we see such an emphasis on community and bringing people together, being really warm amongst others. This is where we see you bringing even this happiness, this positivity, this optimism. This is where we see hope being brought to the collective. Because I'm thinking that with your future visions, your future dreams, it is about hope. And I'm going to say it again, but to touch on Aquarius, what is Aquarius all about? Aquarius is all about hope for the future, hope for a better tomorrow. Aquarius is a very idealistic sign. And so to bring it back again to Sagittarius in the 11th, this is about aiming high. This is about your morals, your principles. This is even about staying true to your morals and principles. And the other thing I'm going to say is even during times when you lose your path, right? You lose your way, maybe you are ushered into some opportunity that in actuality you think, oh, that's not really good for me. Or in hindsight, you think, oh, I wish I didn't take that opportunity. Well, I'm thinking that this could be where Gemini in the fifth house can support you and can say, but what can I learn from that? What can I learn from that? This is a learning axis with Gemini and Sagittarius. So you're all about learning, you're all about exploring new territories, right? So this, hey, with the Sagittarius in the 11th, you could be open to all sorts of groups, all sorts of clubs, friendships, very diverse. You're basically open to change in so many ways. So that's exciting. Thank you so much, Gemini in the 5th, Sagittarius in the 11th. Now we are going to move on to Cancer in the 5th and Capricorn in the 11th. All right, with this particular combination, you could very well have a Pisces rising using the whole sign system. Let's take a moment to think about Cancer in the 5th house to begin with. All right, this is where we see your ability to nurture your creative projects. And what I mean by nurture, it's about what you feed your projects. It's about how you love your creativity, love your hobbies. It's about being supportive or being supported by others for your creative projects. And I'm also thinking about your attachments to what you create, sort of even thinking about them as your babies or as things that you need to look after at all costs. And it could also be a case of you more so attending to your hobbies based on your emotions. So I'm thinking about your emotional waves, right? So your emotional waves, they can fluctuate, they can go up and down. So one day you may go all in with a hobby, with an interest, but then the next day, not so much. But what's still running in the back of your mind is, I want to nurture this. I want to take care of this. It's important to me, right? And then even when other people might insult your creative projects, sorry, when people do that, it can feel really big to your ego, to your heart even. It can be like this attack. It can feel like that. I mean, why would you say that about my hobby? It's everything to me. Do you not see that it's everything to me? This is what I'm talking about. And I'm finding this quite interesting to link this to if you have a Pisces rising, Pisces is so known for their fluctuations, for their big emotional waves, right? Where one day they could be on it and they'll attend their meetings, they'll get through their work, their projects, whatever. But the next day, they might just want to draw the curtains over and close the curtains. They might want to do nothing, just sit on the sofa all day, watch television, escape, not want to face the world. So, this is what we see with this Cancer influence in the 5th. So, indeed, when we think about joy, what brings you joy is having an interest, a passion of yours to nurture and to equally watch it grow. This is where a lot of the fulfillment comes. It's watching it grow and see, another stem or another leaf, sorry, a leaf coming from from it. Or it could be a case of, if we think about this practically, it could be another video that's added to your page. It could be another photograph that you take, it could be another music track that you create, whatever it is, you just want to see it grow. Okay, with Capricorn opposite in the 11th, well, when it comes to your future visions, your future dreams, you can actually be quite serious and quite firm, and you'll want to literally build. It's about building your future. And maybe you know deep down that that is what is expected of you, or that is what you really want to do. It's about, well, this is the life that I want to create. So I better get to work, or so I better actually build on that. But you also understand that it's about slow and steady progress. It's not about jumping in and going super quick, super fast. You understand that it requires patience, it requires a lot of self mastery, and really acquiring skills and knowledge and feedback from mentors, information from people who know what they're doing, members of authority. So if you join a particular class or a club, for instance, I'm thinking that you want the best of the best. You're going to look for people who really have that self mastery, because you think to yourself, well, they've done it, and I'm I'm inspired by them, so I want to learn from them, because they know what they're doing. So surely I'm going to be able to know what I'm doing, or I'm going to be able to reach that kind of level of success. But then I'm also thinking that this is indeed a process, because anything Capricorn, it is about what you put into it. Um, and then that could be where, if you do have a Pisces rising, maybe a part of the challenge for you could be to get into this sort of rhythm or this flow with the future you want to build and create. Maybe this is where you can come back to the Cancer 5th house. So during times whenever it feels too much, there's a lot of pressure that might be placed on you, or you feel that pressure, right? Because that can happen with Capricorn. You can come back to this point of, is this nourishing me? Is this nourishing my soul? Is this really connecting with me on a heart-based level? And when you come back to that, the path opens. You know then, right? Okay, this is the path, because that really speaks to Pisces. If you have a Pisces rising with this combo, it speaks to the flow, the spiritual essence of Pisces. Thank you so much. Cancer in the 5th house, Capricorn in the 11th house. Now we're going to touch on Leo in the 5th house and Aquarius in the 11th house. So with this particular combination, you could very well have an Aries rising using the whole sign system. All right, let's firstly think about this Leo ruling the 5th house when we consider joy, right? What brings you joy? What brings you fulfillment? So what we could look at this as is, when you feel really energized, when you feel alive, when you are being inspired, or when you are being creative, these are the very things that make you feel good, make you feel happy. I see this as many of you being the life of the party, right? You bring the energy. And that's so interesting to me, because if you do have an Aries rising with this combination, Aries are known for being very energetic. And with Leo in the 5th, there's something here about great charisma. So even though you may grow older, what you may find is that you've still got it. You still want to play, you still want to have fun, exercise, move your body. You could actually be very sporty with this one, with Leo in the 5th. And then that's also fascinating, because Aries is known for being quite athletic as well. And I'm also thinking that you could very well go to parties even when you're older. So going to parties, even it's funny, because even if the younger people are dancing, you just might outdance the younger people. And then this also speaks to your vitality, right? It's this whole thing of you may as well appreciate today. You may as well appreciate your life, make the most of your life. You're here to experience joy in your view. You're here to experience things that inspire you and lift you up. And then we also see these competitive tendencies with Leo in the fifth, friendly competition, maybe you being quite flirty and fun. There's this spontaneity that you possess, this aliveness you possess, and it's so magnetic. It's so magnetic. People want to be around you and they feel inspired by you. They feel encouraged by your presence. So, indeed, this is what we see when we look to joy. And then, even just thinking about your hobbies and your interests, your hobbies and interests could, like I was saying earlier, could be sports. So, even going to sporting events, this could be supporting certain teams, or this could be you literally taking part in a particular sport. And also, maybe this could be dancing, singing, performing in some way, acting, right? Drama. You could be very good at improvisation, possibly. But then when we look to this Aquarius energy on the 11th, this is where we see that you are very future oriented. You are the types of people who always seem to have something going on, something that you're trying to innovate or reinvent, something that you're trying essentially, right? Because this is about different projects and adding your unique spin to a great extent. And even looking to how you wish society to be. So there is this part of you that can almost see into the future, see and predict certain trends that form. And then all of a sudden, those things come into existence, and you're thinking, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen these patterns for a long time. But then that within itself suggests that you can lead the group. You can be a trendsetter, a trailblazer, a big pioneer. And then again, what I'm trying to get at here is this is it's so true for Aries. For if you have Aries on the rising, Aries is known for being a pioneer. So indeed, with Aquarius in the 11th house, this is where we get your ability to bring your unique voice to the equation. So your future visions are that of reinvention. They are that of making a difference within the world, perhaps being very charitable or volunteering or being okay with marching to the beat of your own drum and not following the crowd. Not following the crowd. But the last thing I'm going to say is that's interesting because times whenever you do get caught up in that, because that can happen, I think there can be times when you might feel the pressure to live up to other people's expectations. So when those times arise, I think this is where Leo in the fifth house reminds you of who you are, reminds you that it is about your authenticity. It is about coming from your heart. We go back to the heart center. Thank you so much, Leo in the fifth house, Aquarius in the 11th house. Now we are going to move on to Virgo in the fifth house and Pisces in the 11th house. Okay, with this particular combination, you could, of course, have a Taurus rising using the whole sign system. First up, let's explore Virgo in the fifth house. Well, this is where we see that you can be quite meticulous and orderly and precise when it comes to your creativity. Indeed, you may take your creativity quite seriously. And just what I mean by that is you want to do your best. You want to reach your standards and even exceed your standards and expectations. You want to overperform. You want to overachieve. And so you are going to be quite particular about how you refine your skills. And this can also manifest as you being quite the perfectionist. However, what I do find interesting about this one is because of your perfectionistic tendencies, and this can often happen when we think about Virgo, but because of your perfectionistic tendencies, you might even procrastinate. You can experience this analysis paralysis where you're too busy thinking about the project, thinking about your passion, thinking about a hobby of yours, and not actually doing. And at the same time, this is also a process. Yeah, it's a process that you go through, and it's something that you come to learn, I would say, over a period of time, over even years, where, for example, you do put in those small steps, you do put in the work, and then because of your dedication, your diligence, that then means that you can create really beautiful things, eye-catching, mesmerizing. You can really be gifted in many respects when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to your art. And I'm also thinking that you're always willing to improve, to polish up your creations. And you genuinely find this process to be somewhat enjoyable. Sure, there could be times when it's not so enjoyable. Maybe those times are when you're so caught up in your head. And I'm also considering here that if you do have a Taurus rising with this combination, Taurus is known for being very slow and steady. And this slowness, I think, is a part of your Virgo process then. Because maybe during times of rest and relaxation, that is actually when you need to do that. You need those moments. So then what you can do is you can walk away from a particular project, give it some time, and then you go back to it at a later point. Maybe even in this regard, you can feel misunderstood, maybe being called lazy, but actually it's a process. It's something that you know deep down in your heart of hearts that it's going to take time, and that's okay. Then we get to Pisces in the 11th, opposite. So, in actuality, your future visions are very imaginative. You do tend to be quite the visionary. And you could have a Taurus rising with this combo. You might not have a Taurus rising. I'm just focusing on this axis really here now. But yeah, we could see this as you being quite the visionary and wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself, where loads of people are creating and they are being intuitive and they're following their inner guidance, and you feel like you're connected, right? You're connected to this collective consciousness in a whole new way, where you feel inspired by other people and what they're doing and their dreams, their visions, their fantasies. But you can also equally absorb a lot of that or take a lot of that in. And that's in a way beneficial, because then that means you can, in some way, shape, or form, ride the wave of others, or you can energetically connect with others. They can inspire you. And then those things also come out through your self-expression, through your art, through your creativity. However, during times whenever you do get lost, you do get caught up in what the collective is doing, or you merge too much with the collective and their visions, their dreams, maybe this is where you can come back to your Virgo in the 5th and remind yourself of your own practice, your own services, your own style, your personal sort of values and views, and you get back to basics. It's almost as if to say, during times of confusion, you come back to simplifying matters, so things are not so complicated. Thank you, Virgo in the 5th house and Pisces in the 11th house. Now we're going to explore Libra in the 5th house and Aries in the 11th house. With this particular combination, then, you could very well have a Gemini rising using the whole sign system. Right, let's think firstly about Libra in the fifth house. When we consider joy, this is truly about what is refined, what is beautiful, what is desirable. And so this is where we see such an attraction to creation, to producing. This is also where we see you possibly partnering up in a creative way with someone else, maybe preferring to, for example, gain feedback from others within a creative context. So when we consider hobbies, for instance, your hobbies could very well involve relationships, could involve uh, really combining your views or bouncing your ideas, bouncing your perspectives off another person. Maybe you could even enter into some sort of business partnership within a creative field. But you see, it's also relationships that bring you joy. And I'm thinking also that times whenever you know that the balance is off within your relationships, that is when things do not feel so joyful. And that is also possibly when it's important to have a conversation, or it's important to share how you're feeling or what you think. And so, how to maybe restore the balance within that relationship. There is, of course, a level of commitment too, I would say, to certain creative projects here, certain hobbies and interests. But I'm also going to suggest that whenever something comes up that makes you rethink that situation, then you can adapt, then you can adjust respectfully. Fascinating to think, because Gemini, if you do have Gemini on the rising with this combination, Gemini risings are known for being adaptable. They're known for being able to adjust themselves and being open to change. Maybe also this is where we see some of that indecision present within your life to an extent, if you do have a Gemini rising with this combination. And Geminis are known for being indecisive. Libra is a sign that is known for being indecisive. So what this can look like, for example, just in general with Libra in the fifth, is you needing to weigh out the pros and cons, or you needing some time to think about, okay, well, how can I re-strategize, or how can I come up with a different way of doing things, or whatever it is, basically to restore harmony, to make sure that harmony is gained again. Now, having said that, we also notice that Aries is opposite. It's in the 11th house. So this is a fascinating one, because with Aries in the 11th, your future visions are about leadership, are about doing your own thing within the collective. It's about how you as a singular person make a difference within the world. And this is also, of course, about recognizing that people are going to support you, people are going to be there with you along for the ride. But essentially, it's still about self, it's still about you and your dreams and your wishes. So, in this regard, maybe certain relationships or interests or hobbies that you thought you once wanted, those are no longer, or they are put on the shelf for a while, or you change your mind. Hey, that's a thing. Certainly, if you've got a Gemini rising with this combo, Gemini knows more than most that it's okay to change your mind. So I'm thinking, when we bring this back to Aries in the 11th house, there is a redirecting influence. There is this ability to take a different path, to go a different way, and to be okay with that. Though I'm also considering here that times whenever you might be overly reckless or careless, times whenever you're overly self-focused within the group and you lose sight of the bigger picture with Aries in the 11th. This could be when Libra in the 5th reminds you to really think about what you value and how you relate to other people in some way. But then also it could be about coming back to this center point when it comes to your creativity. It's basically about not losing sight of your purpose and your vision, but it's also then about seeing how others, right? It's seeing how others are a part of your journey just as much as you are, being independent and you are going after your goals and so on. Though what I'm also thinking is that during times when you get frustrated, you get angry, you maybe get annoyed at others. Again, this could be where you come back to this Libra 5th house stuff. It's about the equilibrium. It's about feeling more level and balanced from within. And that's more of that's more tied to your joy. That's tied to happiness in your life. So instead of maybe thinking that you need to do all these things outside in the world and go after all of these goals, and maybe a part of you is trying to do it for other people, come back to Libra in the 5th, and then you can be brought back into this alignment where you feel like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is something that I really enjoy. And this is something that helps me feel more like myself, right? Thank you so much, Libra in the 5th house, Aries in the 11th house. Now we're going to talk about Scorpio in the 5th house and Taurus in the 11th house. So with this particular combination, you could have a Cancer rising using the whole sign system. Well, this is where we see with Scorpio in the 5th house to begin with, that you indeed can truly focus in on your creative projects, your interests, whenever it comes to a particular interest of yours. Oh my goodness. You want to know everything there is to know about that interest. So you're going to do your research. You are going to do all of your investigation, and you're going to make sure that all areas are covered. We see this likelihood of you even obsessing over that creative project. It's all you can think about. It's all you want to do. And this shows such dedication, such discipline on your behalf. And we also see the self-mastery. Anywhere Scorpio is, it's about self-mastery. And so you're the types of people who, when you are introduced to a new hobby or creative project and it speaks to your soul, you connect with it on such a deep level. And there's a tenacity. There is this, I will not let go. I will not let go of this. I refuse. I will die on this hill, right? And that is so Cancer, right? If you have a Cancer rising, to me that's so interesting because Cancer is known for being tenacious. Cancer is known for being a leader, this emotional leader, subtle but still a leader, very protective of what it has, what it owns, what it wants, what it creates. Equally, we also see with Scorpio in the 5th house, profound transformations, many of which are going to be uncomfortable. Yes, where Scorpio is, transformations can be tough because they force us to look deeper within ourselves, to look at our self-destructives that we might not want to face, right? Our shadow in this regard. But actually, when you learn to face the challenge, when you learn to look within at your shadow, at your darkness, if you will, which, by the way, the shadow, your darkness, it doesn't mean all bad, but when you learn to do that, that is when you are reborn. That is when you experience significant transformations. And the thing is that you come out fighting. You could very well be forced in many respects to look within, maybe because of some ego challenges, ego blockages. That's another thing with Scorpio in the fifth. Yeah, ego blockages are likely, but that's also where ego death is likely. That is where rebirth is likely. It's almost as if to say you're forced to get out of your own way. You're forced to look within and then to come out at the other end fighting, resilient, reborn, with so much insight and wisdom to share with others. And all of this stuff is about your creativity. And it's also about joy. It's about accessing those joyful, celebratory parts of yourself. Then, when we look to Taurus in the 11th house, well, this is where we see that when it comes to your future visions, your future aims, you do long for stability. You long for some kind of firm footing where you feel stable, you feel centered, you feel calm. This is about the security that you wish to build for your future. And you get that that is a slow process. It requires a lot of time, it requires a lot of effort, and also patience. And so in this way, there is this future part of you that wants to feel secure. And that's not just from within, on a Cancerian level, if you do have a Cancer rising, but that's also the outer security with Taurus on the 11th, which is further interesting because if you do have a Cancer rising with this combination, Cancer risings are known for being security orientated. So maybe a part of Taurus in the 11th, it's suggesting that it's looking to the material world, because by making sure you have enough on a material level, a physical security level, that within itself supports and nurtures and nourishes the inner part of you too. You may get that process very, very well. Having said that, what I'm also going to mention here is when it comes to your finances, your earnings, I'm also thinking that you can be very generous, very giving to others. With Taurus in the 11th, you might be quite charitable, you might volunteer, or you might be a part of certain charity events where you raise money for certain causes and movements. And equally, I'm also thinking that during times whenever you feel stuck or stagnant, or when things are too fixed, where it's difficult to maybe move things, because I guess with Taurus energy, there can be that part of it where we reach a plateau. So times when that happens, you can go back to the Scorpio in the fifth and think, right, what have I not investigated enough? What corner, what angle have I not looked at yet? And then that within itself is it's and you're lit back up again. And then you move from that place. And that's where your transformations also happen. Thank you so much, Scorpio in the fifth house, Taurus in the 11th house. Now on to Sagittarius in the fifth house and Gemini in the 11th house. With this combination, first thing I'm going to say is you could very well have a Leo rising using the whole sign system. But if we were to think about Sagittarius in the fifth house to begin with, well, this is where we notice your desires for adventure, freedom, exploration, reaching higher, reaching new heights, exploring unfamiliar territories. So I imagine this as adventure and freedom genuinely bringing you joy and happiness. I imagine this as you outdoing your personal best time and time and time again. And that within itself fuels you. It gives you something to keep going with or to keep going for. It's a big part of your journey, right? Your journey is about reaching new heights and going after the things that you truly love. And that could involve being open-minded to new opportunities, being open-minded to new ways of doing things. This could literally involve you moving to an entirely different country or just traveling for a period of time. And because of those experiences, something within you is lit up. And then maybe you get a travel bug, or you get this insight that is really difficult to deny. You cannot just sit in one place for too long. You need this stimulation, this passion, this movement where things are progressing or things are improving. I even imagine this as you wanting more and more and more. So more pleasure or more adventures, more of the things that you love, more of the things that bring you happiness. And that to me is a really interesting thing to consider, because if you have a Leo rising, Leos are known for joy. They're known for their ability to go after the things that light them up. And it's about how magnetic they are, and it's how confident they appear. It's not to say that Leos don't at times struggle with confidence, but I am thinking that with this influence, confidence is a big part of a Leo rising story. And then if we think just on a singular level with Sagittarius in the fifth house in general, yeah, there is this ability to want to get out there into the world. And honestly, it's about experiencing life. It's about collecting memories and moments, and it's about being open to what is not very familiar, trying things outside of your comfort zone. Yes, literally, this could be about your hobbies, including travel, or your hobbies could include maybe camping, getting outdoors, staying for long periods of time in different destinations. It's about adventure, essentially. And and you could be very sporty with this combination as well. I'm going to say that. Certain teams that you truly support. Then we have Gemini in the 11th house opposite. And this is where we notice your ability to socialize within any group you're a part of, your ability to talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. You can strike up small conversation with many types of people, and it could come very naturally to you. It may not always be the case, right, with this, because there could be more in the chart that could counteract this. But I'm still thinking that when it comes to group participations, clubs you're a part of, friendships you're a part of, there is this curiosity, there is this desire to be stimulated mentally and to learn from people. And I'm also thinking that with your future visions could very well involve teaching, mentoring, coaching. It's sharing information. It's passing on what you know, what you have learned to others. Could also be about something completely new that you innovate or that you reinvent, and that could be technology related with Gemini in the 11th house. Something that could be linked to computers or programming, something that's linked to maybe writing or presenting, reporting. Again, we think about teaching in some way, shape, or form, public speaking too. Yeah, you come to really use your voice and to see that your voice has so much to offer the world. It can inspire others. And maybe you also learn that your voice can equally be used in a detrimental way, where you put others down, you put yourself down. And then I'm considering here that times whenever it does feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like, what is the answer? What is my truth? I feel like I'm getting carried away in everything, or I'm getting lost in everybody else's opinion, because that can happen with this Gemini on the 11th. When that happens, this could be where you come back to your truth. You come back to Sagittarius in the 5th, and you come back to your why. This is it. You come back to this question of, why am I doing this? What is my intention? What is my reasoning for this? What is my path? What am I aiming towards, essentially? And that can really help you during those times whenever it does feel like your opinions are lost in everybody else's opinions. Thank you so much, Sagittarius in the 5th house, Gemini in the 11th house. Now we are going to talk about Capricorn in the 5th house and Cancer in the 11th house. With this particular combination, then, you could very well have a Virgo rising. And I want to say that I have this combination using the whole sign system. Oh, even the Placidus system. But yeah, these are placements I possess. Okay, let's think firstly about Capricorn in the 5th house. What can this suggest? Well, first and foremost, this can imply that when it comes to your creativity, hobbies, interests of yours, you can be very dedicated. You can be very disciplined and serious. Let's just put it this way. You put in the hours, you put in the time, and you want to become some kind of, could be an expert, a professional, an authority within a certain creative area. Equally, however, this can also manifest as any times when you are not working, right? So the 5th house is also about our time off, our leisure activities. So what we do during our spare time. So for you, your spare time is even spent working, but you might enjoy that, especially if you have found a particular hobby or interest that you enjoy, that really speaks to your joy, your heart. It's something that lights you up. It's something that you want to do, right? There's a genuine want and desire, and there's pleasure that you get from the experience. So, in a way, whatever your hobby is, you work so hard at it. Having said that, this is also where we notice that things can be quite challenging, especially during the first part, so during your younger years. So I would say particularly 30 and below. So this could be, for example, you struggling to recognize what you want to create, or this could be you experiencing a lot of creative blockages and delays and thinking to yourself, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for this. Everybody else is so amazing at their hobbies. They're amazing at their passions. Who am I? I'm not really all that good. So why bother? And this is fascinating to me, truly, because if you do have a Virgo rising with this combination, what are Virgos known for doing? Virgos are known for being really hard on themselves. Virgos are known for weighing themselves against other people or picking themselves apart against other people and thinking, oh, well, that person over there is doing so amazing, so I'm not good at this. Can be very self-critical. However, what I'm also going to say is the beauty, the power of this combination, this Capricorn in the 5th in general, is that when you can learn to look at it more as, okay, it's time to get to work. It's time to dedicate myself. Those people who I'm seeing as amazing, well, they started off somewhere. They started at a certain level where they didn't know much. They might have felt the self-doubt. They might have judged themselves, criticized themselves. So when you can get into this mindset of, I am just going to do the thing and I'm going to keep going, and delays are going to happen, setbacks are going to happen. I'm not going to get it the first time round. I'm probably not going to get it the 20th time round, but I'm going to keep at this. When you do that, oh my goodness, do you grow in your confidence? Oh my goodness. You grow in your confidence, you grow in your abilities. Capricorn is about self-mastery. So wherever Capricorn is in the chart is really where we do refine our skills a lot, and we can exceed our own standards and expectations. So this is where we notice your ability to step into your personal authority, your personal power in many respects, and to take the climb creatively. And again, a part of that, it does involve joy. Then when we look to Cancer in the 11th house, opposite, well, this is where we notice that your future visions are actually about your future visions are about emotional safety, emotional wellness. This is about you supporting your life, supporting your future, but showing up in this nurturing way, in this sensitive way, where you are quite sensitive to the kinds of people you join or groups you join, clubs you join, because you have to be, because a part of this is about what you're building, what you're trying to create. So it is important for you to align yourself with like-minded people who make you feel safe, who support what you want to do in the world. However, if it does come to a point where you find yourself getting too emotionally invested in other people's big dreams and big visions, where you lose sight of your own, this is where it's important to come back to this Capricorn in the 5th and to remind yourself of what you want to build as an individual. Because that can happen, I think, where you might take on other people's emotions or other people's their visions, their future visions, especially being easily influenced maybe by your friends or by certain group members. And I'm thinking again, because with Virgo, if Virgo is on the rising, Virgo is known for being quite influenced in a way by others, because a part of Virgo might not fully trust itself. And there can be that challenge with Virgo at times. So this is also where a lot of the individuality work is to be done through Capricorn in the 5th, where it is about staying true, staying firm. So staying true to who you are, firm in who you are. Thank you so much, Capricorn in the 5th house, folks, Cancer in the 11th house. Now we're going to talk about Aquarius in the 5th house and Leo in the 11th house. With this particular combination, you could very well have a Libra rising using the whole sign system. Firstly, let's explore Aquarius in the 5th house. Well, this is where we notice that what brings you joy, what makes you feel pretty happy, pretty fulfilled, is that of trying what is new, trying something that's more different, thinking outside of the box when it comes to your creativity and your hobbies, your interests, not really following the crowd and thinking for yourself and thinking more about, okay, energetically, what is aligned with you creatively. I'm also seeing this as you being rather dedicated and responsible when it comes to your creativity in a similar way to that of people with Capricorn in the fifth. But there's also that unpredictable spin. So when people may not see it coming at all, but then you go and you do something completely new and you almost innovate whatever creative space you're in. And I'm also thinking that what's important to you creatively is to create with others, to create with like minds, or to have your voice, your unique voice, heard within the group, within whatever community you're a part of. And that community is going to be more creative. You like to come together, I would say, with like minds. And I also think that what you appreciate is other people having their opinions valued and heard too, which is really an interesting thing to consider, because if you've got a Libra rising with this combination, what are Libras known for doing? Libras are known for being able to listen to different opinions, different points of view, and to see where others are coming from. Naturally, there could be more going on in the chart itself that could counteract this or could tell maybe a different story. But I'm still thinking that with Aquarius in the fifth, there is this desire, this pleasure even that you get from community. I'm also thinking that your hobbies and your interests could involve things that are rather non-conforming or quite progressive or just different to what is done normally. And that can manifest in many ways. It really just depends on where society is at the time. Society changes, society goes through periods where, things are more acceptable and then things are not so acceptable. So it just depends on what your personal experience is with that, right? Then when we look to Leo in the 11th house opposite, we actually see that where you shine, where you truly shine, where you feel really magnetic, that is when it comes to, we go back to the grip, we go back to other people and being involved in groups where there are like minds, but it's also about healthy challenge, healthy debate. We also see that you could be the facilitator, you could be the creator, the founder of a group, you could be the one who is leading the group, you could be the one who is at the center of that group, and you equally then see that every individual is a part of it and makes it function the way it does. My goodness, you bring so much warmth to people. You bring joy. You bring joy to other people. So as you're also gaining joy yourself within, certain creative fields, creative areas, and that involves innovation. Equally, we see that joy is indeed further experienced whenever you are a part of something that is bigger than yourself, or when you're able to bring even your own personal view, and that personal view is enough to completely change the game. Still, it's the joy that you bring to the lives of others that can truly make a difference within the world. Maybe you push for people's happiness. You push for a society where people feel seen, they feel validated, they feel recognized. And that to me also screams the Libra influence. So if you've got a Libra rising, right, Libra risings are known for really wanting to see, what other people have to say, what their opinions are. It's not to say that you're going to agree with everybody's opinions, because that's the other thing. This is interesting, because times whenever, for example, with Leo in the 11th house, times whenever it does feel a bit like, okay, but my individuality, I'm losing myself in the group. I'm losing who I am within the group. you can come back to the Aquarius in the 5th house and remind yourself of what your opinions are, what your unique perspectives are. This comes back to that of your ability to argue your point of view, especially during times when things are not so balanced. And then again, I'm thinking with the balance that's in combination with Libra on the rising. You could have a Libra rising with this combo, you may not, but I'm just bringing up those interesting connections. Thank you, Aquarius in the 5th house, Leo in the 11th house. And lastly, we're going to explore Pisces in the 5th house and Virgo in the 11th house. First thing I am going to say with this combination is you could have a Scorpio rising with this combination using the whole sign system. So when we think about Pisces in the 5th house to begin with, we see here that you truly lose yourself within your creative projects, within your hobbies, your interests. There is such a deep spiritual connection that you form with your creativity, with your hobbies. Naturally, sure, for many of you, you may not label it necessarily as spiritual, but that tends to be what is happening. And then I'm also thinking that you truly ride the waves, big waves of emotion, where it's so vital. It is so important that you energetically align yourself with your creativity. So, for example, times whenever you're not in the mood, you're literally not feeling it, it is about listening to that, listening to your need for rest and recovery, or just some time to maybe reflect, to contemplate, and then a lot of insights come through, a lot of sort of downloads, cosmic downloads come through. But then another way to look at this is whenever there is that big wave of, oh, I'm feeling really inspired, I want to create, I've got to do this, following that. A lot of this does come down to trusting your inner guide, trusting what your soul is trying to communicate to you, and then it's being in alignment with those parts of yourself. And I'm also thinking that you tend to gravitate towards certain creative projects that involve fantasy, metaphysics, esoteric subjects. Yes, the spiritual. Could also be about some art, right? So artistic abilities, thinking about painting, writing, song writing, dancing, singing, media, photography. Yeah, what can I say? You feel a higher calling, a higher purpose to create. And to me, what this also implies is that one, yes, these things bring you joy. They really speak to your joy and your vitality, your happiness. But also, another thing is a big part of this is tied to softness, the softening of the ego, the softening of your individuality. And what this can look like, for example, is your ability to let go, is to trust, is to form a relationship with yourself that is spiritually accepting. And to me, this is interesting because if you have a Scorpio rising, Scorpio risings are known for being very profound people, very passionate people. And what Pisces maybe suggests is that indeed you are deep divers, you are soul searchers with this. And I think a part of what Pisces in the 5th house says is a part of the soul searching involves that softness. It involves that time of rest and relaxation, listening to that part of you. Yeah. But when we look over to Virgo in the 11th house, right, what we see with Virgo on the 11th house is when it comes to your future visions, you can be rather matter of fact, rather analytical, meticulous. There could be a plan. Maybe there's always a plan that's working. You may not be aware of that plan, but there is something about what you want to create in the future, what you are striving for. And maybe a part of that does involve, it could be being of service to others. It could be about maybe taking care of your health, your wellness, bringing wellness to the collective, helping the collective in some way, offering practical advice, practical guidance to the collective, or practical guidance within certain clubs you're a part of, groups you're a part of, maybe even in some way, shape, or form being quite charitable, in that it's all about your small acts of kindness. That could be a thing here. Small acts of kindness, you may realize or recognize, they go a long way. And this is also an interesting point to consider. It's that you're very particular, very specific, very selective when it comes to groups you're a part of. And that to me is very interesting, because if you do have a Scorpio rising with this combination, Scorpios are known for being very selective, very selective. And so this could be where this Virgo in the 11th house truly manifests in many ways, shape, or form, because you're not really going to be too concerned about having so many friends, or having a lot of people around you, or being liked by everybody. That's not really your style, especially with the Scorpio rising. Still, I'm thinking with Virgo in the 11th house, indeed, this is where we see your ability to refine your skills within groups. And so because of that, your insights, they land so specifically. It's almost as if to say, what you get from people is on point. Nail on the head. You got this, because you're so precise. This is about precision. And that requires a lot of dedication on your part to get to that point, which of course you could very well do so. And the last thing I'm going to say here is, well, during times when you might hyperfixate, or you might be overly critical of yourself within the group, or times whenever you find yourself worrying a lot, like excessively, or stressing yourself out a lot, this is where you return back to Pisces. Thinking about, okay, but what is my soul saying? What is my heart's desire? How can I rest? How can I really feed my soul creatively? And then you're brought back to yourself, your spiritual connection. Thank you so much, Pisces in the 5th house, Virgo in the 11th house. And with that, everybody, this has been the video all about your 5th house and 11th house axis, looking at all of the signs through the 5th and 11th houses. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have found this video to be helpful and that you learned something new. If you want to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you did find it to be helpful, you can always buy me a coffee. Subscribe if you haven't already, and give the video a like if you liked it today. And I will be back with another video. Thank you for watching. I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye.